Welcome back, everybody, to the Insightful Podcast. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. I know there's been long gaps in between the podcasts as of late, but starting today, we will be having more frequent episodes, at least an episode every 3 days. So stay tuned for the wisdom that is here to come. And for today's episode, we are going to be speaking about the cost of clarity and why self-awareness can be uncomfortable. You guys know how I like to do it. I go over 5 points, give a little detail on each one, and then you could take something away from this video and start applying it to your own life. So let's get straight into it. Clarity exposes what you've been avoiding. Becoming self-aware often means confronting truths you've buried, habits, relationships, or excuses. The first step to self-improvement, and this is something I like to say all the time, and maybe you've seen it in previous podcasts, is the beginning of self-improvement is realizing you need to make a change. And that is why many people are not self-aware, because when you are self-aware, you realize that you do have a lot of flaws. You do have a lot of things that you could potentially be working on. There is a lot of things that maybe other people around you don't like about you. So when you confront this kind of truth, and it's a very harsh truth, that's why many people don't do it, you kind of are unable now to avoid what you've been subconsciously avoiding about yourself. Because once it's there, you can't stop thinking about it. I always say that, once I discovered entrepreneurship and, making content and all this stuff and trying to pursue that dream, I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to pursuing something that I know wasn't meant for me, right? So this is the same thing here, is when you're self-aware about what you want or who you are, there really is no going back from that point. The next point is growth means outgrowing people. The clearer you get on who you are, the more tension you will feel with those who like the old you. And this is the reality as well. We constantly speak about your environment and who you surround yourself by. But when you realize that maybe you don't like this version of yourself, and then you start to improve that version, you can't force the people around you to get better. You can't force the people around you to become self-aware. It's all a journey within your own self. So people don't like to become self-aware because maybe they realize that the people around them aren't the best for them. Maybe they realize that the people around them aren't elevating them. And then you can't help but be around those people and feel uncomfortable because you know that these people are holding you back. So that's another big reason why many people don't want to become self-aware, because not only does it affect your own life and who you are, it starts to affect the people around you and your relationships with them. The next point is you can't lie to yourself anymore. Self-awareness removes your ability to blame others. You see your role in your own pain, and that's heavy. It is so true, because at the end of the day, the more self-aware you become, the more accountability you'll take for everything around you. I feel like the people that are the most self-aware will sometimes even blame themselves for things that aren't actually their fault, but they'll find a way to pin it on themselves. And yes, this could be a negative thing because it's not always your fault in certain situations, but it's actually a better way of looking at it than the opposite end of that. Is like, you could blame yourself for everything, or you can blame other people for everything. And that's the problem, is when you blame other people for everything, you can't make a change. You're at the mercy of what they think and who they are and how they are affecting you. When you start to blame yourself and you start to see, maybe if I acted differently in this situation, things would be different. They would be changed. And once you see that, you can't lie to yourself anymore. You kind of approach every circumstance with, how can I fix it? What could I do better? Instead of blaming the next person or blaming the person in front of you, right? So I think it's very important to realize, once you do become self-aware and you do want to become more self-aware in your actions, your circumstances, whatever the case may be, you can't lie to yourself anymore. You won't be able to just put stuff under the rug and act like it's not your fault. You know what I mean? The next point is comfort becomes less appealing. Once your eyes are open, the things that used to numb or distract you lose their power, and that shift can feel isolating, right? When you become self-aware, let's say, for example, something as your time, where maybe before you became self-aware, you always used to say, I never had enough time, I never had enough time. But then once you did develop that self-awareness, you realized, I was spending a lot of time on some bullshit conversations. I was spending a lot of time scrolling. I was spending a lot of time playing video games. I was just spending a lot of time wasting it. And when you realize that, is you start to see that the comfortable things, the things you once found comforting, aren't that comforting anymore. You actually don't enjoy them as much. You don't want to do them, and you're almost disgusted by it because you start to realize the importance of living a more fulfilled life and living a life that is surrounded by your purpose, right? I'm reading this book, The Way of the Superior Man, and in order to be your best self and in order to be your most fulfilled self, you kind of need to surround yourself with doing things and being around people that elevate your purpose in life, right? So once you kind of become more self-aware, all these comfortable things, all these things that would distract you from what you truly wanted, become less appealing. And because of that, maybe you don't want to give those things up in the moment, so you avoid self-awareness entirely. But that is the reality, is that if you could become more self-aware, those things you find very comforting will be less appealing. And for the last point, clarity isn't cruel, it's a catalyst. It might hurt at first, but true clarity gives you the power to change what's broken instead of pretending it's fine. Many people go through life thinking that they live a fulfilled life, thinking that this is the path that they want it to be on, but they don't think hard enough. They don't, analyze their life. And when you don't do this, that is what, leaves you in that ignorance. It leaves you in that ignorance, and one day you wake up miserable because you finally realize that what you've been doing your whole entire life you hated, and it left you unfulfilled, right? So you can't look at clarity as this thing, as it's bad, and it's going to make me feel bad, or maybe sad, whatever it is. It's just a catalyst for you to start living your true life, for you to start living the life that you actually want. So it's very important to not look at clarity as a bad thing, as it is the catalyst to you starting to live your best life. That is all I wanted to go over in this podcast. These solo episodes are going to be shorter. I want to make sure I just provide value and I don't give you too much fluff. But that's been the podcast today. If you guys enjoyed this episode, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know any other future topics you would like me to discuss in the future. We gain insight in order to move forward in life. Thank you, everybody, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Rush a cold to a diamond, eyes forever shining. Your beauty alone inspire a nigga to rhyming.